What's happening, everybody? Coach Ken here again with another episode of CRC Weekly. So this is episode number 3. And if you haven't noticed, I really haven't been posting a lot of this online. I haven't posted any of it, to be honest, and I don't really plan to. CRC Weekly, it's for you guys. This is for the Circle community. I kind of just want to put some things on here to keep you guys engaged, like I said. So I'm not really putting this online anymore. It's just for you guys. So last week we were talking about goals, and I think we were getting into, the physical and mental side of goals. And I mentioned the end of last episode that I want to shift into potentially talking about the week that was, and in particular, the 1-rep max efforts and how they affected us. So I do want to jump into this 1-rep max stuff this week and talk about that. It's pretty obvious that 1-rep max are physically taxing, right? You're lifting a very, very heavy barbell. I think most of us understand the physical ramifications of doing that. I think what's less understood or less thought about is the effect on the nervous system when we're attempting 1-rep maxes. So let's just talk through it. You're attempting a 1-rep max and you're going for it and you hit it. And that's an awesome feeling, right? Congratulations. You're throwing your barbell down, high-fiving whoever's in class. And you're like, yeah, that was awesome. And what's happening in that moment with your nervous system is you're getting an endorphin dump. Your endorphins are spiking. Your nervous system's going into overdrive. And you may not realize that, but now your nervous system's all out of whack. And your body has got to regulate that. The flip side of that scenario, we all know, is when you go for a PR and you miss it. Or maybe you don't even hit your previous 1-rep. And that's just a crappy feeling, right? You're upset. You're angry, you're frustrated. And in that situation, your nervous system is just dropping off, just going to a zero. And, your body then has to figure out how to regulate back to normal levels when you miss a 1-rep or not hitting the previous 1-rep. And so how does the body regulate it? What goes on? And what are some things you can do to help that? I don't want to really talk to the science of what the body does because that's just not my area of expertise. But I can tell you that if it is a particularly stressful on your nervous system, whether you're hitting or missing, some people do tend to crash. They go to bed early after 1-rep maxes because it's taxing and your body's like cashed out. Physically you get it, but your nervous system's like crashed and all destroyed. And sometimes you just got to go to sleep to get that regulated. And so what are some things you can do to avoid that crash? I know I've crashed before, and it's like going to bed at 8 o'clock and it's like you've missed a big chunk of the night going to bed so early, sleeping, 10, 11 hours. And so what are some things you can do to avoid that crash? And I think the best thing that I've found is to just kind of do a mental reset. And for me, that means, kind of isolating some, going for a walk. I used to like taking the dog around the block with an earbud in, just kind of listening to a podcast that can kind of ground me and mentally reset me. Getting in a cold tub if you've got one, that's an excellent thing for your mental reset. And I know that's not for everybody, so you could always find a hot tub and get in and do that as well. Some people like journaling, where they can just kind of do a mental reset by, writing about something, maybe how that 1-rep made them feel or something that made them feel gratitude. Some folks like being with other people, those extroverts out there. They recharge by being around other people that make them feel good. But the general thing there, trying to avoid that crash is identifying some way that you can mentally reset and, reflect on what happened, good or bad, and try to regulate your nervous system the best you can without crashing. And so I want to share some lessons learned over the years that I've had with 1-rep maxes. Things that I wish I would have done from the beginning. I didn't do them, to be clear, but I wish I would have recorded all of my 1-rep maxes from the beginning, just to kind of see and observe how much I've grown. I know now that I do it, so I can go back and look at each lift in particular and, analyze myself in third person of what I need to do different. That's the way I learned. Coach James is saying, do this, do that. Yeah, I hear you, but it doesn't necessarily process with me, and it doesn't process with some folks either. Some of us are visual learners, and we have to see our mistakes to understand them. And hearing about them isn't the same as seeing them. And so I encourage you guys, especially you new folks, to record and record often. You don't have to post or share if you're not up for it, but it's cool to have those, especially if you know like your ceiling is much higher on some of these strengths. And I was just saying this to a member Monday night. Like the next time that we do a clean and jerk strength, you're going to overtake your previous 1-rep. You're obviously going to hit a PR, in my opinion. You're very capable. Your ceiling's very high. You're going to blow by that number you just put up, that one that looked really, really ugly when you PR'd. And you're going to be like, wow, now it looks so much better. And it's just because you've grown, you've learned more technique, and you've gotten stronger stronger. And it's cool to kind of go back and reflect and be like, this is what that number looked like in the beginning, and this is what it looks like now. And it's just night and day that you can see how much you've grown. And if you don't hit a PR, I think it's really important to just kind of accept that fact. It's a hard pill to swallow, right? You're not as strong as you once were, and it's kind of like deflating. And there's a lot of reasons why you may not have PR'd. I mean, you can pick anything out of the sky, right? For those of you that have been around with us for a while, I've had this question a couple times the last few weeks. How do I go back and delete some of my history out or reset my lifting history so I can like start again? I'm not as young as I once was, or I'm dealing with this injury now, or whatever the case is. You just want to reset. There is not a good way to do that, but you can individually, like on an entry by entry basis, go back and delete some of your all-time high lifts to kind of reground your percentages and give you something to chase for again. And I definitely encourage that if you're in that boat to just take some time when those lifts come up and you see something ridiculous. I can't clean and jerk 1,000 pounds anymore. Well, delete that entry. Every time you see something ridiculous, delete it and just kind of reground yourself. And eventually you'll do that enough where you can kind of catch up and understand that this is really where you are. And there's no shame in, kind of starting again and grounding yourself. And so one more for the newer members of the gym. When you first come in the gym, you'll find that your growth is exponential, right? You show up and you're doing strengths and you're like, wow, I'm just getting so strong, and you're getting better and better. And that's because you're still trying to like find your footing and find that true one rep. And you're still like, chasing that a little bit. But what happens when that exponential growth after a couple of years starts to flatline and you really have found that one rep max and you're really at it? Well, if you want to continue that growth, then you've got to supplement some lifting on the side. And that can be done outside of class time, before or after. Open gym's a really good time to do it on Thursdays or Saturday, Sundays. Those are really great times to do some supplemental lifting. And those sessions should consist of working on the mechanics. In the Olympic lifts or in the power lifts, you're just trying to improve the mechanics of that lift consistently before you dial up the intensity. And that's really the best, simplest advice of how you can supplement your lifting. You're not trying to pursue one rep maxes in your supplemental lifting. You're trying to figure it out. And once you start figuring it out, then you could start dialing that intensity up to some extent. But I wouldn't be pursuing one rep maxes often, if at all. I'd be lifting to something that feels potentially challenging. You don't want to put yourself in the ground, especially if it's a rest day where you've, overspent energy on lifting and then you're like limping into the gym the next day. But you definitely want to do some supplemental lifting, but be cautious with how heavy you're going. All right, guys, that's it for this one. I'm taking off for a couple weeks. The family and I are headed down to Florida. We're going to hit up a water park down there for a couple days and then jump on a Carnival cruise ship for a 6-dayer in the Eastern Caribbean. So I'll be out for, I think it's like 10 days, give or take. So I'll be out for a couple weeks, but I will be back to the gym when I'm home. Don't worry. In the meantime, I hope you guys have a good couple weeks, that you recover well from your one rep maxes. I will see you when I'm back. Keep showing up, keep being consistent, keep crushing it in the gym, and I'll see you guys next day. Late.